Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Amanda's Cozy Corner. Happy fall! It is finally fall time. The fall food is in the store, the pumpkin spice everything, the fall vibes are out there, all of the pumpkin decor is out. I have been slowly amassing even more books. I put out this whole huge TBR of like 90 plus books that are on my bookshelf that I have not read yet. I have been whittling that down, but in the meantime, I have been getting more books. Some of these are not so recent acquisitions. Some of them are like free in that I got them from my parents' house, so I didn't pay any of my money for them. I've had them since I was a child, so it's really like my parents bought these like years and years ago. And then some I did just buy like this afternoon on my way home from work. So it's the vast majority actually. So, anyway, I have them in this lovely bag that I don't really want to show you because it's Christmas themed and it's too early. It is fall time. It just became fall time. Fall goes until Thanksgiving. Christmas can start at Thanksgiving. The fact that there's Christmas stuff out right now just does not sit well with me. But anyway, why don't we just get started then? Let's like talk about some of the ones that I got from my parents' house. So I just got married and that has been a really fun journey of like digging through old photographs, family albums, things like that, like going through my childhood bedroom. And one of the things that like my mom in particular was really big on was reading. Is you could always I could always convince my mom to buy a new book even when we were like tight on money, but like she wouldn't just buy us new toys. It was like you wanted something and my mom would say yes to it. It's like you asked for a book. So books are everywhere in our house. So I grabbed some of the ones that caught my eye when we were kind of going through some of the stuff in my house, or my parents' house. And I thought some of them are kind of appropriate for the season. The first being Nancy Drew's Ghost Stories. I don't remember reading these. These are like short stories. It says 6 bone-chilling tales of mystery and terror. And I was a Nancy Drew girl. Like, I read quite literally every Nancy Drew book that I think was ever printed. My school library had all of them, and it was like a whole bookshelf wide, like 2 bookshelves wide thing of like the yellow hardbacked Nancy Drew books. They had the Hardy Boys, they had all the crossovers, and I read every single one of them. Didn't like the Hardy Boys as much, but like Nancy Drew, she and I go way back. So to find this in my parents' house, I did not know that we even owned this. And now it's spooky season. I was like, yes, I will read some Nancy Drew ghost stories. Sign me up. The next one, I'm fairly certain this was either my lit class in college or maybe one of my sisters, but it's Grimm's Fairy Tales. So this is just a bind up of all the different Grimm's fairy tales, like Snow White. I don't recognize a lot of these, but like, just, I feel like fall is just magical in the way that it fits so many different genres. Like, you can read horror, you can read mysteries, you can read ghost stories. Like, I feel like fairy tale is like right in there, like Hansel and Gretel, Snow White, like Cinderella, all of that. And like, let's be real, the Grimm's version of these fairy tales is pretty much just like a collection of horror stories. Like, they are not nice. Like, they are brutal. So, because I'm not a huge horror girly, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get spooked reading some of these. I'm gonna out myself as being the absolute giant weirdo I was as a 13-year-old, because I went through like this like crazy obsession with dragons. Like, it was absurd. I would not read something if it didn't have dragons in it. I would not, like, if there were dragons, I was there, okay? And my mom, God bless her, I don't know how I convinced her to do this, bought the Dragonology handbook for me. And this is cool because I, for like the first time in my life, did not destroy something that had like multiple pieces. There are like little like pieces of paper. It's like a journal that you're kind of like, you're reading this journal. Like you're not really filling it in. It's like this field notebook of like dragons. And what amazed me the most was that there are all these, like I kept this in pristine condition. I guarded this with my life. Like my cousins were not allowed to read it if I wasn't there. My sister was not allowed to touch it. It was truly like one of my prized possessions. And I used to like pore over these sketches and try to do my own in my own sketchbooks. Like I started my own Dragonology handbook. I was a nerd, just giant nerd for dragons. Still am, but not quite to this extent. There are like pages of stickers. Like, look at all of this. Can you imagine, like, oh no. My 13-year-old self would be like, nope, don't touch that. But like, can you imagine like decorating your Kindle with some of these? How cool would that be? I think it would be cool. I might. I'm not going to use these stickers because I feel like I've guarded them for so long that like you can't use them at this point. But maybe I can like find some inspiration online and use them or get some similar to it. So that's just for funsies. That's like sentimental value. I don't know that I'm going to sit down and actually read that book, but it is what it is. Then, so this is like very much a me thing. My mom, like I said, really encouraged reading, and so she bought us these like book sets, and I brought 2 of them home, and I should probably go back and get the third one because the third one is actually like in line with the season. But this is a box set of classics. These are romance classics, and it has Little Women, Emma, Wuthering Heights, Jane Eyre, Pride and Prejudice, and Adam Beatty. I've only read Pride and Prejudice and Jane Eyre out of these classics. This Pride and Prejudice copy, though, I am pretty sure I have read like 10 times, though, because I went from dragons to horses to like Pride and Prejudice. Like I watched the movie and was obsessed, read the book, have seen like every iteration, spin-off, whatever you can of Pride and Prejudice. The 2009 movie is the best, in my opinion. People are gonna come for me. I don't care. Keira Knightley played Elizabeth Bennet absolutely perfectly, and like the chemistry. Anyway, this is like my personal copy. Like this is the kind of stuff that I would just grocery list, Guarantee Bank grocery list, bookmark. Where did I leave off? I probably left off when I left for college at page 113. Yeah. So I'm really excited. I'm like, maybe we'll read some classics this winter or fall. I feel like Wuthering Heights is also a very fall-time book. It's very angsty. The next little box set are adventure classics, which I think is cool. This does not fit there. This is Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. The red means it's from the Tales of Terror and Mystery, or Tales of Terror and Suspense box set that I left at my parents' house. I'm not a big horror person, and the only book in it, other than this one that I was like interested in, was Dracula, and I have a copy of that now. So we'll leave that one for now there. But then the Tales of Adventure are Ivanhoe, Treasure Island, Gulliver's Travels, and The Count of Monte Cristo. I'm pretty sure I've read Treasure Island and Gulliver's Travels, although I can't say for certain because I don't remember a ton. I don't believe I read Ivanhoe. My sister or my dad may have read this. And that's why why the spine's a little wonky. That's the other thing, like, my house, we were, like, precious about the books and that, like, you had to keep them in good condition, but breaking spines or dog-earing pages was, like, totally acceptable. Which I think is interesting. Because, like all these covers, these paperback covers, it did not matter if the book got beat up as long as pages weren't falling out or, like, you could still read it. Like, that was totally fine. Okay, so those are all the books from my parents' home. Very excited about those. I think I am missing one from the Adventure Classics, which I probably got shoved into the horror box set. And I think it was Around the World in 80 Days. It's either that or 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It's one of the Jules Verne books. I know that for sure. All right. On to the books that I purchased with my own money. So they're all mixed up. So I'm not going to, I don't know when exactly I purchased every single one of them, but a lot of them I did purchase just this afternoon. I got Ali Hazelwood's Not in Love. This is a 2024 release. Can't really say it's like recent now, but you know, 2024 release. People did not seem to like go crazy over this one the way that they have in previous books, so I love Ali Hazelwood, so I'm willing to give it a shot anyway. But oh, and I bought like a bunch of these at Meijer's, interestingly. For some reason, grocery shopping and book shopping just went hand in hand that day. Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. This is supposed to be, I think, like a serial killer romance. I'm hoping it's not too scary. I don't think it is. I think it's marketed mostly as a romance, so we'll see. All right, next from apparently the Meijer's haul is Hook, Line, and Sinker from Tessa Bailey. This is the second book in, I don't think it has a name, but it follows It Happened One Summer. I read that earlier this year, and I think I gave it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. Tessa Bailey's romance, like, she has a formula for sure. Very much the, like, queen of grumpy sunshine. Her, like, dirty talk during sex scenes is, like, filthy. Like, 5 chili spice. The sex acts are not anything, like, crazy, but, like, whew, some of the stuff that, like, these characters say to each other is, like, alright, like, can simmer down just a little bit. Not really. Please don't. Tessa Bailey, if you're watching this, like, keep it up. So this will be cute. I liked these two. These were 2 supporting characters in It Happened One Summer, and they were honestly, like, part of the best part of the book. So I'm really excited to read their story. Okay, on to a half-price book thing. First up is Her Majesty's Royal Coven. This is an older book, for sure, but everything that I have seen about it online is that people have been gave it pretty good reviews when it first came out, and then, like, nobody's talking about it. And it's now spooky season. What's better than a witch book to bring us into spooky season? I finally picked up A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. So many people love this series, like, love this series, that I couldn't just, like, let this one pass me by when I found it for $6. So I decided, yeah, sure, I'll buy the first one. If I like it, I'll get the rest. If I don't, then, you know, I don't. I sell it back to half-price books. Alright, this was kind of an impulse purchase. This is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. My understanding of this is that it's very much it's a romance, but it's like a young adult romance that is centered around fan fiction and a fan fiction writer kind of breaking out of her shell. I've heard some people love this book. I've heard some people don't. I never wrote fan fiction, but I consumed a lot of I read a lot of fan fiction when I was in like high school through college, like present day, like not so much, but there are still some fan fiction stories that stick with me that I'm like, I would reread them. Like I have them downloaded on my computer just because I'm paranoid that like the author will go in and delete it, or you know, the website gets taken down, something like that. And like there's just such beautiful storytelling, like using the characters that other people created, but like honoring them and changing it. I love I could talk about fan fiction for hours. I have so many recommendations too, like so many. But Fangirl, I'm gonna give it a shot. Like I said, I've heard some things. All right, I think we're getting into all the ones that I bought today, which is gonna be great. All right, we're gonna start with the big ones. The Shadow of What Was Lost. I'm in my like high fantasy reading era. I used to have this thing where like I needed to find the biggest book on the shelf, and that was the book I was gonna read. And generally that happened to be like high fantasy books, especially when we're talking about like elementary school, middle school libraries. Like the big fat books on the shelf were always the fantasy books. And I just read super quickly, so I needed a large book because otherwise I was going to be bored, you know? So I felt some of that coming back because I've been flying through a lot of like very short Kindle books. So I grabbed this one. It says, Davian suffers the consequences of a war lost before he was even born. When he discovers he wields the forbidden power of the augurs, he sets into motion a chain of events that will change everything. To the west, a young man whose fate is intertwined with Davian's wakes up in a forest covered in blood with no memory of who he is. And in the far north, of course it's in the north, an ancient enemy begins to stir. Continuing with the big book theme, this is it's a little beat up, it's not too terrible, copy of The Will of the Many. This has been like raved. It is definitely a like hype book right now. It's a very trendy book right now. But again, this is by James Islington, and I think that this is so interesting because everyone is talking about how great this is. It's supposed to be, again, a high fantasy coming of age story, very like Roman Empire centered, like themed book. So I'm interested in this. Next up is Evocation by S.T. Gibson. I don't know much about this other than it's a beautiful cover. I've seen the special edition covers, which are also beautiful, but I'm very pleased. I like the color scheme of just the standard cover better, and like the foiling is pretty. I don't really know what this is about, to be honest. I've heard fantasy. Oh, he's a high-powered Boston attorney moonlighting as a powerful medium for his secret society. And it says the devil knows who he is. Of course the devil would know an attorney. So, give it a shot. It's a very pretty book. So I picked up a copy of The Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love by India Holton. This gives me big Veronica Speedwell, what's the dragon book? Lady Trent's Guide to Dragons or something like that, but with birds. But it's also a romance. For the Wolf by Hannah Witten. I have had a hold on this book for at least 6 months already, and it is still not available, and it will be several more months before it becomes available on Kindle. And again, like, I love going to the library and picking out library books and reading them. However, I am very bad at returning them on time. And not only does that make me feel bad for the next person who's waiting for this book, it also costs me money. So, because I do hold on to them long enough to get some fines, and that's not good. So I just said, whatever, I will buy this, and then on the shelf next to it was the second book in the I believe it's a duology. If it's not, I'm so sorry. but For the Throne, which is book 2. And when they match, we have very few series and like duologies that actually match. I can't pass it up at this point, so here we are. And that brings us to our very last book of the book haul, and it is very seasonal. I believe this just came out. I don't know how Half Price Books manages to get either all of the Barnes & Noble overstock or their like rejected copies, but I've yet to find one that is like not in good condition. I mean, there's like a little thing here, but like this book literally just came out, so it is what it is. Anyway, it's A Werewolf's Guide to Seducing a Vampire. And so I read the first book. This is by Sarah Hawley. I read the first book. I own the second book in this series. I have not read that one yet, and I've now picked up the third book. Again, it just fits the spooky vibes. My complaint with the first book was that it was I thought it was trying to, it talked about very deep topics, but in a very shallow way. I mean, this is very much a cozy romance. It's like small town, mystical vibes. Like, in the first book, the character was learning to put like boundaries, like healthy boundaries in place, but like, I don't know. Perhaps it was just the way that it was portrayed. It didn't feel like there was enough conflict, if that makes sense. Like, she's putting healthy boundaries in place with her family, who doesn't respect her boundaries, except that all of a sudden they do, sort of. It's like, that's not how that works. Like, I'm sorry. It's just, there's normally a lot more, like, it was maybe just the way it was written or portrayed. It to me did not feel like it addressed the depth, or didn't reach the depth that it was going for, is maybe the best way to say it. So I'm a little skeptical, but I'm sure a fun book. The first book was very fun. I think if I just go in and not think about it too analytically, I'll have a good time with the second, and then this third book. This one I'm a little bit more excited for because it's some of the characters that I enjoyed from the first book more than the characters that the second book is focused on. I haven't read it yet, but like that couple were like just not my favorite characters out of the first, like of the supporting cast of the first book. So, lots of actually spooky fall books this fall. Hopefully I will be back soon with a little reading vlog. If you like it, please like and subscribe. I am going to try to upload a little bit more regularly. As we can see, there's lots of books to read. Yeah, which book of this haul would you prioritize? Which one would you read first? Let me know. I would love a recommendation of the stuff that I already have. Which one would you maybe not read? Or like, did I mess up and buy a dud? Let me know that too. Because I'm always interested in books that people don't like. I feel like we all want to say very good things all the time, and sometimes it's helpful to be critical of a book. Yeah, so I hope whatever you are reading is treating you well, and I will see you in the next one.